Hello and welcome to the Soul Shaking Love podcast. I'm Valerie Green from coachvaleriegreene.com. And this podcast is dedicated to bringing you the world's expert teachers on how to build a mind, body, and spirit connection, both with yourself and with your true love. And so today I am just really excited because I'm going to be interviewing 𝐂𝐥𝐚𝐢𝐫𝐞, who is a dating and relationship coach, about how to feel more secure in dating if you have anxious attachment, which is one of my favorite topics. So, hi, Claire.
Yay, hey.
It is so nice to have you. And we were just chatting before this just about how, anxious attachment brings up particular challenges with dating, how we tend to because I have an earned secure attachment style, but I had my own issues with anxiety, but Claire's here to share her story, but how it makes us act needy and insecure and question things and want to make the other person like us rather than really be authentic. And so I know how challenging that is. So I'm really excited to be inspired by Claire's story.
Absolutely. And yeah, there's so many challenges that can come along with being anxiously attached in dating, but also knowing that it's completely possible to move towards earned secure attachment. And that was me as well. I was very anxiously attached. I'm now with earned secure attachment, and what a huge difference it's made. So I'm so passionate about sharing this work and supporting other women to come to that place they can just feel secure and empowered and confident when they're navigating the dating landscape.
Exactly. I know. It's just so something that, in my opinion, needs to be discussed more,
Yeah.
because otherwise I think we wind up blaming ourselves for feeling insecure and it's not our fault.
Yeah.
And, so that's what we're here to inspire you with. I, of course, want to pick Claire's brain. First, I will tell you a little bit about her because you might not have heard about her before. So, Claire is, as I said, a dating and relationship coach. She specializes in supporting women to create their dream relationship through building a rock solid relationship with themselves first. So, we're going to talk about that. Really feeling more secure and confident in yourself. And her own journey, which I'm excited to have her share, is that she navigated infidelity, divorce, and dating for the first time in her 30s, and encountered all the situationships and amazing connections and navigating dating apps. And so she's here to bring her wealth of personal experience to help you so that you can, shorten the learning curve for you. So, I mean, that's my first question, Claire, is just, what were the main insights or takeaways that you had for your own dating experience when you recognized that you were feeling anxious and insecure? What are the, most transformative parts of your story that make you say that change is possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to start off by giving like a little bit of context. So I was in a 14-year relationship. I was married and that broke down when I was 34. So I was dating for the first time ever at the age of 34. And that was exciting and also really, really scary because dating apps did not exist when I was
Huh.
single, like in my teens. And I was like, oh my goodness, Tinder, like what on earth is this? So I spent the first 2 years dating with lots of enthusiasm, but very little self-awareness. And I realized that I was stuck in this cycle of dating men who were emotionally unavailable, who were very avoidant, who I would get ghosted, they would be very inconsistent. And I was constantly trying to prove my worth, like, pick me, like, I'm good enough, like, I can change him, like, I know he's doing these things, but I'm such a good person and I can make things different. And I was stuck in these cycles. And it was when I went to therapy as a result of going through divorce, several bereavements, losing my best friend, that we started talking about attachment theory, and I realized that I was anxiously attached, and things started to make sense. Because up until that point, I just thought my experiences were what everybody experienced. I was like, this is normal, right? This is just what everybody goes through when they're dating. And I just need to try harder. I need to make them see that I'm valuable, I'm worthy, that I can help them, that I can fix them, I can fix these guys. And actually, when I was able to take a step back and go, okay, what's happened actually makes sense. And I get to be the one that starts to make changes around this. That was like the first big insight in terms of going, I am the common denominator when it comes to all these experiences that I've been having. And it was confronting, but it was also exciting because I was like, well, if it's me, I get to actually change the experiences that I'm having. So I went through therapy, but I also was coached for the first time, more general life coaching, which then sparked my career transition into becoming a coach myself. And I think the first big insight was realizing that I get to empower myself with the tools to make changes here, that I don't need to be on that, like strap myself into the emotional roller coaster and just ride it and not have any control over things, because that had been my experience up until that point. And I think that's the first thing, is recognizing that your attachment style, it's not a fault, it's not a box, it's not a pathology or a label on your head. It's an awareness. And when you start to have that awareness and start to understand yourself and the patterns, and also realize that you can make change and it's possible. Like, that was absolutely huge for me to realize that.
Yes, exactly. It's so empowering, because we hear all these attachment words being thrown around as buzzwords in the coaching
Yeah.
lately. And I think a lot of people tend to think of them as like a diagnosis or a pathology, but it's not. It's, and the way I talk about it, and I'm curious to hear how you talk about it, is that our attachment style is a matrix of beliefs about who I am, who other people are, what love is, and skills that we just should have learned from our parents, but through no fault of theirs either, they didn't teach us about how to self-soothe, about how to regulate your nervous system, about how to collaborate with others and feel like we're on their team, and then also positive beliefs that need to be developed about that other people care and it's okay to express our vulnerability, and and then a skill set for how to do that in a way that is actually caring and open-hearted about how to create those win-win solutions. So it's that entire skill set, but it's not a pathology that needs to be healed. It's a series of beliefs and skills that can be developed. So that's how I teach it. So I want to hear about how you think about it.
I absolutely love that. I love that concept of it being skills that can be developed, because I think that's so important for people to understand that change is absolutely possible. And the way that I talk about attachment theory is I describe it as a sliding spectrum, so that you have anxiously attached on one end, dismissive avoidant on the other, secure in the middle, and then those who are fearful avoidant, sliding between the two. And what I say to people is, we're going to be on different points on that spectrum, depending on how we're feeling, how the other person is showing up their attachment style. And the aim of the work that I do with women is to help them slide on that spectrum towards secure attachment and have awareness as to where they are. Because even if you identify with leaning anxiously attached, it's likely there's going to be times when there'll still be avoidant behaviors or traits that come up. So it's about learning the skills and the tools to always be coming back towards that place of security in the center. So that's how I like to describe it, because I think otherwise people can get really caught up in going, oh, but I think I'm anxiously attached, but sometimes I'm avoidant. So what does that mean? And it's about learning that actually we're all on a spectrum, we're all moving around it. And even if we're securely attached or we have earned secure attachment, there's going to be times where we might start to slide on that spectrum towards anxiety or towards avoidance. And that's absolutely okay. It's about recognizing that and going, okay, how can I support myself to move back towards secure attachment? And sometimes that's going to involve the other person in the dynamic as well. Sometimes that's going to be self-soothing, but really equipping women with that toolbox of tools that they have that they can use, because we're all going to need to use those. And nervous system regulation is a huge part of what I do with my coaching as well. I really believe that for a lot of women, it's the missing piece, not just in their love lives, but in life in general. There's so many people with a dysregulated nervous system that aren't aware of how that's actually impacting their relationships with others, their relationship with themselves, their career, all areas of their life. So I love that that's what you're teaching as well, because I think it's really, really needed.
Totally. Yeah. And thank you. And so for women who are listening and thinking, wow, that sounds overwhelming. How do I change my beliefs and my mindset and learn these skills? So what are the first steps that you teach to women who, and I know that we're talking about dating. So, usually the problems that women with anxious attachment run into with dating is exactly what you shared with your story. So thanks for sharing it. It's like, I feel insecure, so I need to make him like me.
Yeah.
I'm kind of worrying about whether he does, so that when I'm with him, I'm not really present.
Yeah.
I know I've certainly experienced that. So how do you help women change their mindset, first of all? And then what skills um, do you teach first as to how to self-soothe so that we actually show up on the date feeling excited and empowered?
Yeah, I mean, the first step for me is always nervous system regulation, because if our nervous system is dysregulated, we don't have access to our prefrontal cortex, the logical, rational part of our brain. And I believe that when it comes to anxious attachment in dating, it's about making different choices, more conscious choices, and not just being pulled by the feeling that you have with somebody when you first meet them. And we can talk about that in a little bit more depth, because this is probably like the one thing that the women that I work with are like, holy fucking shit, okay, now it's starting to make sense why I've been stuck in these patterns. But the
Right.
first step is that like nervous system regulation. So giving them the tools so that they can actually recognize, one, when they're dysregulated, and two, practically what they can actually do about that. So that might be things like breath work, it might be meditation, it might be more like somatic based practices. And what we mean by that is working with the body to actually be able to calm and soothe ourselves, because when we're regulated, we tend to make better choices. So the nervous system regulation has to come first. The second piece then is usually the mindset work. So looking, okay, how are you perceiving situations? What are the stories that you're telling yourself? Because everything that we experience in life is just a story. It's the story, it's the meaning that we create around that. So allowing them to step back and start to look at things through a different lens. And this is where the belief work comes, right? I mean, there's so much that's involved with this. It's really difficult to actually break it down into a prescriptive process because everyone's different. But basically with the belief work, like if you're showing up into the dating world with the belief of I am not good enough, that is the lens that you see all your experiences through. When you can show up into the dating space through a lens of I am good and I'm always worthy, regardless of the outcome of a situation, the lens that you see these experiences through is so different. So again, doing that deeper belief work, so identifying what are the beliefs that my clients are actually holding, and then doing the work to start to shift and change those. Because when we can start to shift and change the beliefs, it also helps people with their mindset as well. So I think it's very difficult to say, well, these are like the 3 simple steps that we do, because there's a lot that's involved with that. But knowing that the beliefs that you hold about yourself, the lens that you see the world through, changes all the experiences that you have, the meaning that you create around that. So basically helping women to have empowering beliefs about themselves so they see the world through the lens of empowerment rather than disempowerment.
Yes, exactly. I love that. So what you're saying, if I understand correctly, is first learning how to feel more secure on the inside, which is
Yeah.
what nervous system regulation is about, although it's done through the body, breathing exercises, meditation, self-touch. There's a whole, we could do a whole interview around
Oh
that.
God, yeah, we could do about 6 hours on that.
Engaging the 5 senses to really have us feel grounded in the present moment. And then working on our beliefs, because I completely agree that if I think I'm not good enough, then I'm going to show up on a date with like, oh, I have to make him like me. And then he's then some insecure. And then we won't have this connection. But moreover, if I have that belief, I'm going to miss red flags that he's not available because I'm not really feeling confident enough to tap into my intuition as to, is he who I'm looking for? Because I'm so focused on, I have to prove my worth. And so it's only when we can shift our beliefs to feel I'm good enough that then I can relax into, oh, let me see if this other person has the qualities that I'm looking for.
Absolutely. It's like shifting that from, instead of walking away from a date going, oh my goodness, did he like me? Shifting that to, did I like him? Like being curious about your own experience around that person and going like, did he listen to me? Did I feel seen and heard? How did I feel in my body around him? Did I feel safe and grounded and able to just show up as myself? Or was there something else going on there? And I think something that would be really interesting to talk about would be like the spark, because I think there's so many people that are, they chase the spark and they go on dates and are like, I just didn't feel that thing that I wanted to feel. And I think sometimes there can be a misunderstanding from people as to what the spark actually is. I'd be really interested to hear your take on it as well, Valerie, but that is a big thing that comes up, I think, in the dating space, this conversation around the spark. What is it? Is it real? Does it exist? Is it necessary for a long-lasting and healthy relationship? And I do think that when people can start to have just a bit more understanding around it, it can be really helpful, especially when it comes to dating.
Wow, I know. I think that it does make sense to talk about that. And you actually mentioned that in a different way a few minutes ago, when you said something around that we're chasing a feeling, that we want to like, oh, I love the way I feel with this guy, so therefore I want to keep going with it. And not that obviously we do want to look for feeling turned on, right?
Of course we do. Yeah, we don't want to be dating someone and like, oh, he's a nice guy, but I feel absolutely nothing. But I think like, especially if we've had like if we have an insecure attachment style, because we tend to have a pattern of being in unhealthy dynamics, we are chasing that feeling that we have around that unhealthy dynamic. And actually, that's not the key to having like a long-lasting, healthy, fulfilling relationship. But of course, we need to feel something. We don't want to feel dead on the inside. That's definitely not the vibe that we're going for.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, no, I think this is a really good topic. Like, what is the spark? Because yes, of course, I have my opinion, and I'm here to discover yours as well. That what we're looking for is to feel turned on, of course. And the dynamic that you just spoke to is that what we experienced in our childhood as this is what love is feels familiar.
Yeah.
And we repress that, unfortunately. And so I'm laughing. It's not funny, but it's as coaches, we know how complicated it is. That's why I'm laughing. But it's definitely not funny. It's definitely very painful that whatever, because if we had a wonderful relationship, if with our parents, we felt it's safe to express our feelings, it's safe to be vulnerable, we're going to get emotional support when we need it, I can tell them anything, then we usually develop secure attachment. And then it's not painful. We'll be attracted to people that are emotionally available because that's what feels familiar. But if what felt familiar in our childhood was it's not safe to share my feelings, it's actually dangerous, I'm actually on my own, if I share things with my parents, it makes it worse, then we develop an
I'm
insecure
nodding.
style. You know, and so, you know, then that's what feels familiar. And so that's what we're going to be attracted to. That's, you know, what creates the spark, you know, so I want to hear your opinion about that and how do you shift that dynamic then?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We're subconsciously recreating the dynamics we experienced in childhood, and that feels familiar. So, like you said, I'll speak to my experience growing up. I had wonderful parents, but my dad is avoidant and was quite emotionally unavailable. So, what I started to recognize when I was doing sort of personal development, coaching therapy was I was consistently attracted to men who were emotionally unavailable because I was trying to recreate that dynamic with my dad. I just desperately wanted to be chosen and loved and validated. And when I went on dates with guys who were secure and were like, I really like you, Claire, I'm really expressive, I would be like, oh, I just don't fancy him. Like, I just don't fancy him. I'm not interested. I'm not feeling anything. And I want to add the caveat of this is the way I felt before I started shifting my attachment style and have the knowledge that I have now. But
Right.
the way that I describe it to the clients that I work with is I will say when we are anxiously attached, when we lean anxious, we are subconsciously attracted to those with an opposing attachment style who are avoidant. And what that means is when we meet somebody like that, it causes a lot of nervous system dysregulation. So what we experience is what we think is like excitement, this spark, this like, oh my God, like I just want to set myself on fire. This person is so incredible, this connection can often actually be nervous system dysregulation. And what I always say to my clients is if you have an experience like this isn't me poo-pooing it and saying there's absolutely no way this can turn into a long-lasting relationship. But I will say slow it down.
Right.
Do not be driven just by this feeling that comes up. I want you to slow it down and start to observe how he's showing up. Do his actions match his words?
Right.
Is he consistent? Is he reliable? Is he someone that's taking the healthy masculine lead? Is this someone you actually want to be in a relationship with
Right.
rather than just being driven by this feeling? So, do I believe that the spark exists? I do believe it exists. I also believe that it can be nervous system dysregulation. And when it's experienced, let's just step back, slow down, observe, not get carried away with that feeling because sometimes it's leading us down the wrong path. And when we meet, I think, again, when we lean more anxious and we meet somebody who's secure, often we don't get that excitement, that kind of feeling like somatically, we don't experience that excited feeling in our body. But that doesn't mean that something can't grow, that chemistry can't grow. So, absolutely, if you meet someone who's secure and you're like, I'm just not attracted to him, don't see him again. Like, don't. But if you meet someone, you're like, yeah, do you know what? I am attracted to him. Like, we had a really good conversation. He was listening to me. We've got things in common, but you're not feeling that, oh my God, I want to set myself on fire feeling. Give it a few more dates. See if
Mhm.
something is going to start to grow organically, because sometimes it's that slow burn that leads to that beautiful, healthy, fulfilling relationship rather than that instant, oh my God, we've got the most incredible connection and I can't explain why. And every time around him, I just feel so much in my body. I always think just like slow it down, just observe,
Yeah.
try doing things a little bit differently. Because I know for me, with my own dating history, I dated dozens and dozens and dozens of men after my divorce. Every single guy that I had that, oh my God, really sparky feeling with was avoidant without
Mhm.
fail. And
Right.
again, I'm not saying that's always everyone's experience, but that was very much my experience. And what I noticed was when I noticed how I was feeling in my body and I went with the guys that I felt very grounded and safe with, it would either develop over a few dates or it wouldn't. And if it didn't, they weren't the one for me. And that was absolutely okay. So again, everyone's experience is going to be different, but I do believe that what people think is a spark can often be nervous system dysregulation.
Right. Yeah, you said a lot of wonderful points there. I want to tease them out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, first of all, I want to ask you that those guys that you said that you dated where you were attracted, but you didn't feel that, oh my God, I want to set myself on fire feeling. You did feel grounded and safe, that sometimes it turned into a spark and sometimes it didn't. Um,
Yeah.
when it did it feel similar to that initial spark? Like, oh my God, or did it feel different? And if it felt different, then how does it feel different when it's like actually healthy love?
Yeah, I think it was more just like a warm, open feeling, like just this feeling of there's like slower realization of I really like this. Like, I like this guy. Like, there was like a more curious feeling with it. Like, I want to see how this grows and develops. And it was more this like opening
Mm.
rather than this, oh my God, I just want to like, I don't want to do anything other than see this person and they're all I can think about. And do you know what? That is a really exciting feeling. But I always think that if it feels addictive, it's unhealthy. Like if we feel like, oh my God, they're all I can think about, and I just want to put all of my eggs in one basket and energy into this one person straight away, it's usually unhealthy. So for me, the experience of when it was something that grew, it was more that kind of slower, open, warm feeling. And then as a result of feeling safe and grounded with that person, I was able to show up in a way where I was like sexually expressive and I was able to be more open with that side of myself because it wasn't this performative, oh my God, I'm doing this to try and so that I look sexy and they find me sexy. It was more just oh, I feel like really comfortable with this person and that side is just starting to naturally come out. So that was my experience of it, that it was a chemistry, but it felt different. It wasn't this like super sparky, all-consuming, addictive, craving feeling, which was what I always experienced when I was with someone who was very avoidant.
Right. I love the way you're describing it because it is a physical feeling. And as I'm sure you teach, one of the components of nervous system regulation is being able to tolerate big feelings
Yeah.
so that we can tell the difference because it's felt as a feeling. It sounds like that feeling of, oh my God, I can't get enough of him. I just need to put all my eggs in that basket. That actually is a feeling of anxiety. Like that is
Yeah.
what anxiety feels like as a positive emotion, because all emotions have a positive aspect to them, including anxiety. And the positive
Yeah.
aspect of anxiety is motivating. I
Yeah.
just can't wait to keep doing this thing. I have to accomplish it.
Yeah.
It's like when we're like running a marathon or whatever, like that's a positive anxiety.
Yeah.
It's not that we have to run marathons, like when we're excited about accomplishing a goal,
Yeah.
like, that's just important to recognize that that's not what secure attachment in a relationship feels like,
Yeah.
not what healthy attraction in a relationship feels like. It's what anxiety feels like. And there's nothing wrong with anxiety, it just has a place. And so once we learn how to soothe our nervous system, then we can feel the difference between attraction coupled with anxiety versus attraction that is open. And these are the words that you just used, that you felt open, that you felt grounded, that you felt self-expressed, you felt safe. And like then the feeling of attraction then is felt differently, because it doesn't have that anxious. Although my husband and I like to joke around because he has an anxious attachment style too. And when we were dating, we're feeling that positive anxiety. Like, I don't know if the other person likes me or not, and we
Yeah.
like talked about it with each other. And, so that can be like kind of cute.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? So my partner leans anxiously attached and I'm in that place of earned secure attachment. So when we started dating, he said to me maybe like 3 or 4 weeks in, you're the first like secure woman that I've dated. And I was like, oh, that feels really good because I've been doing a lot of work to get to this point. And we had a lot of open conversations where he said, this feels really unfamiliar for me because I've only dated women who are avoidant. And
Mm.
I'm used to that really sparky, addictive, craving feeling. And he's like, I don't have that with you. And we spoke about the discomfort that came up around that. And I had experienced that in previous relationships where I was like, okay, this is healthy, but it also feels really uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. And sometimes, like you said, we need to be able to regulate our nervous system and allow ourselves to be able to sit with that discomfort, because I think sometimes what happens with women, for anyone, when we lean anxiously attached and we're in that first dynamic with someone else who is secure and it's a healthy dynamic, sometimes we can almost want to run away from it because we're like, this feels so uncomfortable because it's unfamiliar. And it's about, I guess, gently like building our capacity to be present with that and going like, this is what safety feels like, and it's okay to be feeling this. And I always find that very interesting, and something that I help my clients navigate is when they've been anxiously attached and they're in that first healthy dynamic, what to do when that sometimes uncertainty comes up, because they're like, this feels different, or I feel like I'm getting the ick. And often they're not actually getting the ick, it's just because it feels unfamiliar and the nervous is like, right, like, this is what you did. Like, this isn't familiar. This isn't love. This isn't what you know. And helping them to kind of navigate those first few times when it comes up. And they're like, oh, like, this is okay. Like, this is safe. Like, this is what I want. I don't want to go back to that, like, inconsistency and that, like, push-pull. Because, yeah, like, when we're in an anxious avoidant dynamic, it's exciting as hell, right? We've got massive highs, but we also have massive lows. And I know for me, I came to a place where I was like, I want to be in that. I want to be in that more grounded, steady state. Like, I don't want to be feeling all the addictive highs and lows. It's just not what I want. And again, I think that's a sign of coming into that secure place, when it actually becomes a bit of a turn off when someone's inconsistent. Instead of trying to chase him because he's being inconsistent, you go, I don't actually want to. Like,
Right.
not what I'm attracted to anymore. Like, I want consistency. So yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so you just said a lot of wonderful things. When somebody is dating somebody and it feels just so unfamiliar that they're like, and their nervous system tells them to run, let's say, because I know for me with my ex-husband, I didn't know anything about attachment back then. And I mean, I like swing fearful avoidant, which is only 5% of the population, but have done so much healing work that I think I'm earned secure by now. But it's like, so like when he started being vulnerable, I judged him as being weak, unfortunately, because that was my programming.
Yeah.
And of course, I regret that and have apologized to him since then. But how do you help women really discover the difference? Like, how do I tell if I'm losing attraction because he's just not right for me, or if I'm losing attraction because that's my programming? And actually, if I slow down and I get used to this feeling that he could be right for me, like, how do you help when it feels so like overwhelming?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it comes down to regulating your nervous system, like coming to that kind of grounded place, allowing yourself to sit with things and go, okay, what's coming up? Is there just this feeling of, or this voice of like, this just isn't the person for you? And it's this knowing, but it's not coming from a, oh, fuck, oh, it's not for me. It's just coming from a place of like, this just isn't right. This isn't the right relationship. Or is it being driven by this like urgency to be like, you need to get out, you need to get out, this isn't the right person? And I always think that that is a sign that that's been driven by anxiety. So I
Right.
always say to my clients, like, there's not a rush. You don't need to make like a decision today on whether this is your person or not. Focus back on you, ground yourself, try not to almost like ask yourself the question, just allow yourself to be in that space and see what comes through when you're feeling grounded. And that's going to give you your answer, because I think so often people put pressure on themselves to like know the answer straight away. They're like, oh, I've had this feeling, maybe this isn't the right relationship, and I need to like decide tonight what's going to happen because I can't possibly stay in this any longer. And I always say, look, let's just step back. Let's just take a little bit of time. Let's feel more grounded. And then let's work from that space. Like, let's make the choice from a regulated space
Right.
rather than from this space of like, oh, like I just need to know what the answer is now. And again, it's expanding people's capacity to sit with uncertainty. Because when we're
Yeah.
anxiously attached, we don't fucking like it, right? We're like, I don't want to sit with uncertainty. That's like the worst thing in the world. But actually,
Yeah.
like allowing ourselves to sit with that and knowing that I don't know is an answer. Sometimes we're not going to know. Sometimes it's going to take a little bit of time.
Yes, exactly. We're not going to know right now, we're
Yeah.
going to have to sit with it and learn the skills of nervous system regulation. And then I'm sure that you also help people clarify their values and, their emotional needs, their attachment needs, so that they can communicate those in a way to tell if the person's actually compatible.
Yes, absolutely. That's such a big part of it, is actually learning how to have those conversations from a secure and grounded place. But it comes with actually know what your values and your needs are first, because
Right.
I'll speak to women and I'll be like, oh, so like, what are your values? And they're like, well, I don't know. And I'm like, what values do you want in somebody else? Well, I'm not sure about that. So getting the clarity on those. So values, what are kind of the deal breakers? What are the things where there's a little bit of flex, things that you could compromise on? But yeah, like emotional needs, with your attachment needs, love languages, and learning how to, again, communicate that from a secure and grounded place. And I think also learning how to navigate uncomfortable conversations, because that's such a big part of being in a secure relationship, is being able to have those conversations that feel a little bit uncomfortable, but being able to navigate those and knowing that, do you know what, sometimes you're going to have a conversation and you're going to have a different opinion on things. And
Mhm.
that's okay. How can we come back to a place where we're back together again? And like you were saying, that collaborative approach of being a team rather than you versus them. I love that, because so much of being in a healthy relationship is having a collaborative approach. And again, all of this can be learned. Like, I never got taught how to communicate in a healthy way. It was never role modeled to me as a
Right.
child. It's something that I've had to learn as an adult in practice. And sometimes we're going to get it right and sometimes we're going to get it wrong. And it's okay. It's part of being human.
Yeah, exactly. I think that all of these skills are learnable. Communication skills are learnable.
Yeah.
And I know for me and the women that I coach too, that once it's very uncomfortable to imagine bringing up something that we're unhappy about. We're scared that it's actually gonna, cause a rift in the relationship, for example. But then when I did have the courage to bring it up and I knew how to bring it up in a way that was on his team, which I also had to learn too.
Yeah.
I'm passionate about teaching, of course. Um, and then he responded in a way that was, caring and like, oh, let's actually work this out. I have a different opinion, but let's work this out. We want to find the win-win, etc. When he actually showed up like that, that created a different kind of attraction that I'd never experienced before. Like
Yeah.
I'd never even known what that kind of spark could feel like.
Yeah, I totally hear you with that. Like the relationship that I'm in with my partner just now, very much the same experience. So bringing something up and him being like, oh, like it's okay. Like, what can we do to move this forwards? And in the past, I would have fear around bringing up these conversations, because typically I'd dated a lot of men who are avoidant and were very shut down. They wouldn't want to have them. They'd avoid the conversation, or they'd be like, why are you bringing this up? They'd be quite confrontational. So I understand why women can have a fear of actually having these conversations. But when you're in a dynamic with somebody who has a secure attachment style, it's a safe space to start practicing these things, right? Because it takes practice for us
Yeah,
to be able to get skilled at it.
exactly. And then once we have enough practice, then we learn to tap into the feeling like, oh, this is what it feels like when it's healthy.
Yes,
And that
definitely.
experience changes our beliefs about what's possible. And it's just really beautiful.
It is.
Um, and I know that another skill that you teach women is how to create a profile or a bio online that actually attracts men who are emotionally available rather than attracts avoidant men. So, do you want to speak about that too?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's so many men and women that are using dating apps. It's kind of the way of the world. I do think there's going to be more of a shift towards in real life. I think people are craving that again. But there's no denying that dating apps are a great way of making new connections. So what I would say is, when it comes to a dating app profile, you want to stand out. You don't want to be beige. What I see a lot of women doing is they create a profile that's very generic, because they're like, I just want as many people to like me as possible and to have as many matches. And what I say is, actually, you want to kind of be a little bit polarizing. So you want to be attracting in someone who's like, oh my goodness, like I love that little quirk about her, and repelling the people that are not going to be a good match. So I always say, like, don't be afraid to show you, show like the interest or the hobbies you have that maybe you're like, well, are people going to think this is a bit weird or a bit geeky? Have conversation starters in there as well. Make it really easy for somebody to look on your profile and ask you a question, because sometimes people try to keep things so blooming generic that you're like, well, what do I ask? And I also say, like, you see a lot of profiles that are very similar. So it's like, I love dogs and foods and hill walking. That's amazing. But so does like 95% of the population. What is it about you that's a little bit different that someone can really sort of connect with? And I always think it's important to tap into things like values. So something a little bit deeper. What do you value? What is it that you're looking for? And being really open and upfront about that. So if you're wanting to start a family, or if you're wanting marriage, if you're looking for a life partner, most of these apps have like a prompt, a question where you actually select what you're looking for, and being open about that, because then it means that it increases your chances of matching with somebody that wants similar to you. So I would always say, like, be yourself, like shine, show your quirk, show the things that maybe you're like, oh, I'm not sure about putting this on, because what you're looking for is fewer good quality matches rather than hundreds and hundreds of matches with guys where you're like, well, they've not really put anything on their bio and I can't really see why we've matched in the first place. So yeah, don't be afraid to be yourself, and put plenty on your profile as well. I know when I was using the dating apps, the last time I was on them was probably October last year. I had quite a lengthy bio on mine. I had a lot on there, and something that people said was, oh my God, it's like a breath of fresh air, because I actually feel like I understand a bit more about you as a person, and you've brought a lot of energy, and you've obviously put effort into what you've written on your bio, because so many people put one sentence and they're like, oh, I can't really be bothered with this, so I'm not going to put anything on. But you just attract that energy back. So it's
Right.
worthwhile, like putting a wee bit of time and effort into what you're putting out there, and thinking about the energy that you're putting out as well. Another one, it's just popped into my head. Don't put a list of what you don't want. Like that
Mhm.
is going to get you nowhere. Really focus on what it is that you do want. Because I think women think, oh, if I put a list of what I don't want, it will put these people off. No, it won't, because they don't care, because they're not even reading your bio to begin with. They've just seen your first photo and think, oh,
Right.
she's hot, I'm going to swipe for her. Like, put out what it is that you are looking for, putting out that positive energy. Again, I think that can make a big difference.
Right. Exactly. Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've said a lot of wonderful things, and I would ask you more examples. But I know that you have a free gift where you really teach people how, like, what to and what not to put in their profile. So do you want to, it's a glow up your dating bio.
Yeah, so it's Glow Up Your Dating Bio. It's a PDF where I walk you through all the different steps in terms of creating a standout profile for the dating apps. It's tried and tested. I use it with all my clients that are using dating apps or online dating. And it's just a really simple, straightforward way to do things that isn't too overwhelming. So yeah, lots of golden nuggets in there for people to have a read of.
Yeah, which is wonderful because I know that's something that is just overwhelming. It's like, where do I start?
Yeah.
Um, and if it's not working, it's like, well, what's missing? And so I think that your free PDF is, a really, really good place if you are, online, but you're not getting the results that you want. It could be the way that you're presenting yourself. And, of course, it could be all these other skills, which we'll review. But
Yeah.
first, so we want to talk about, it could be skills, or it could be just that we all need to speak about our experiences and use a sounding board to tell whether or not we are, having blind spots, or whether we just need to stay in the game, right? And so sometimes
Yeah.
it just helps to have support. Um, so of course we'll talk about that and how to work with Claire as well. But first, I will put the free gift description, glow up your dating bio, and I'll put the link to that below the video if you're watching this on YouTube, and I will put it in the show notes if you're listening to the podcast. But I really want to just summarize everything you've said, because you've just made so many wonderful points. That, first of all, that when we have an anxious attachment style, that it feels familiar to be preoccupied, and that's not your fault. It's just, what has been programmed into us, through our life experience. And so then, what you said about slowing down is so important, to be able to check when I get support. It could be working with Claire. It could be, reading a book about anxious attachment, whatever it is that you get support on, learning how to regulate your nervous system, learning how to tell your vision and values and love language and must have and attachment needs, and actually believe that you deserve to be with somebody who values that too, and then feel secure and discover what is that authentic connection between me and this other person. Does he have the qualities and skills that I'm looking for? Do I feel safe with him? Can my authentic self actually come out? Then that is simply a belief system and skill set that a coach can help you to develop. It's not like there's anything wrong with you that you don't know how to do that yet. So that's what I've heard you say, and I feel really inspired hearing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so important for women to know this, that all of this can be learned, and it's so transformational when you do, and then you're able to bring that into dating and your relationships. And I think just for women to know that like change is absolutely possible, and it will happen with the right support, with the right toolkit. There's no reason that it won't happen. So yeah, I think it's really empowering to be able to inspire other women to see that they don't have to be stuck in these patterns. They don't need to be strapped into the emotional roller coaster, not able to get off. They can make more conscious, empowered choices that ultimately leads them to the relationship that they desire.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've had so many of my clients too tell me, oh my God, I didn't know that it was possible to feel attracted to someone that I actually feel safe and secure with too. And this just feels so amazing. And it's just that's why I do what I do too. It's just so fulfilling, when we get to feel adored and cherished and safe. And it's a new feeling, and it is definitely earned.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Actually appreciate it, so that's what makes it worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And so do you want to tell people how they can work with you too, if they download your free gift and they realize, like, I can use more support in working through these beliefs and learning how to regulate my nervous system?
Absolutely. So the first step is get in touch with me. My contact details are on the end of the PDF, but I spend most of my time hanging out on Instagram. I'm an Instagram gal, so I'm at Confessions of a Dating Coach. You can drop me a DM on there. There's also a link in my bio where you can fill in an application form for one-to-one coaching. And then what would happen is we just jump on a 30-minute call, have a chat, make sure that coaching is the right next step for you. And I work with my clients in a 6-month container because I believe that change takes time. And I also like to be there to give mentoring as well. So if there's real life situations that are coming up, if my clients are going out on dates, there's something coming up for them, we can actually start to work through that together. So yeah, it's a 6-month one-to-one coaching container. I do offer one-off coaching sessions as well. If someone's like, I just want to get a taste for this and try this out initially, most women come to me to work for 6 months. So because again, I believe it takes time for that, make those changes and to have that transformation. And yeah, I'm there for the coaching, but also the mentoring side of things when situations crop up, as they will do when we're navigating the dating landscape.
Yes, yes. And I mean, 6 months, might seem like an intense container, but it's actually a really short time to think about learning these skills and possibly being in a healthy relationship, and to make that investment in time and resources to really, because the person that I know, that we're relationship coaches, so this is the water we swim in, but the person that we spend the most amount of time with is really one of the most important aspects of our life. And that when we are in a securely attached relationship, it's just such a joy to know that I can support him when he's down. He can support me when I'm down. I'm holding his dreams in my heart. He's holding my dreams in his heart. It's such a beautiful feeling to have, and it's totally worth it. So I just want to impart people with that too. And I'm
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think the thing is, so often, like with patterns we can be stuck in, those have been patterns that have been going on for years or even decades. So, of course, it's going to take time to start to unravel those and start to change things. And when I first started doing the dating coaching, I worked with shorter containers, but I've switched to 6 months because I just believe it gives people time to actually start implementing and integrating all the tools as well.
Yeah, so it sounds like, you have a very wonderful and comprehensive system. So I encourage people to download Claire's free gift, Glow Up Your Dating Bio. And if you resonate with her approach, then absolutely reach out to her. And, I really want you to feel that secure attachment and dating somebody who you're both attracted to and you feel safe and secure with, who you can be yourself with, is absolutely possible. And all it takes is the right support. So I am just thrilled to share this information with the world. And I hope that everybody has a really, self-love and, grounded and secure filled feeling during their day. And if you don't, then there's many tools in how to regulate your nervous system so that you feel that way, because that's what everybody deserves. So
Couldn't agree more. Love that.
until next time.